Oh, hi, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there. And welcome to, well, the very first thing for BC WrestlePod in 2025. And welcome to the first official Grapple Gurus of 2025. Tonight, myself and Adolfo here are the newly formed team of the Oedo Bites, as we are here to review Stardom New Year Dream 2025. I'm super excited. This is a first for us. This is our first time covering Stardom, and I am super excited to talk about Joshi wrestling and, of course, all what that entails. But like I said, Adolfo is here.
Hi, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. So, Adolfo, you watched a lot of wrestling this past weekend.
Oh man, dude, I don't know how you do it. Yeah, we'll talk
it
about
all
it
connects. It was a whole weekend in Japan. But as I mentioned before, tonight we are here on Grapple Gurus to review Stardom's New Year Dream. And of course, before we get into a little bit of everything, I do want to go over, the norms, the ups, the downs, and the stuff like that. A little bit of housekeeping. If you've been following us for a long time, you already know how this goes. But for those of you who are new to us, hi, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. But before we get into everything, we do what I call housekeeping, which is, the normal, hey, hit that bell notification, hit the subscribe button, follow us on the social medias if you wish. I'm so excited. This is going to be super fun. If you like what you see on screen today and you want to see more behind the scenes shenanigans, as well as some, keeping up with all the stuff we do here, make sure to follow us all over the socials on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok for like the next 2 weeks, depending on what happens here in the States. We have a Blue Sky account as well, which is a lot of fun. We have a Patreon, we have merchandise, and this is just one of many kickoff for this week for BC WrestlePod 2025 kickoff week. Oh my goodness, I will talk more about that at the very end of what this week entails, but let us begin. So, Adolfo, before we dive into this pay-per-view really quickly, this was your first real introduction to Joshi style of wrestling as it pertains to it being in Japan with Stardom.
This was. It's funny because as a lifelong wrestling fan that did the normal wrestling fan lifespan thing where I was really into it, and then there was let's call it the dark times when I really wasn't keeping up with it, and now that I've been reintroduced to it, I'm so happy to be finding all these other promotions like Stardom, which I've heard about in the past and been interested, but have never been really able to access it. So now being able to access it, I'll tell you what, man, being a wrestling fan in 2025, good times. It's good times. It's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? That serves all your favorite food and just being like, what am I going to eat now? So
I love it. It is a fantastic time. It is so much fun. And I am super happy to have you here doing this with me. So a little bit about my history with Stardom before we get into all the fun stuff. So I am a little bit more familiar with Stardom, even though I don't watch it religiously. There are loads and loads of people who are better experts on this than I am. But I have been keeping my eye on Stardom, especially over the last couple years, because Stardom has evolved and has given us some amazing talents from Japan that we are currently seeing in some of the other companies right now. So, of course, Miss Julia from Stardom is now in, NXT with WWE. Mina Shirakawa has been showing up on AEW television, and it's just... we also have some other women who are not, Japanese wrestlers who got their start in Stardom. So Mariah May, Toni Storm, it is so much fun. And I am super happy to kind of bring Joshi wrestling to BC WrestlePod in small doses, of course. But it makes me super happy that we're doing all this because it is a good time. And I enjoy it. But now that the preamble is done, let's get into what everybody is here to talk about, which is New Year Dream. So this is interesting, especially for those of you who aren't aware, because there was a lot of faction on faction matches happening in this event.
Yeah, there were.
So for those of you who do not know, Stardom is very heavy on faction warfare for the most part. So what does that mean? Well, for the most of the Stardom roster, they belong to one of 6 factions, and they all have different things. There are a few girls who are factionless, who are independent, but will team up with certain folks ever so often. But we have currently there are 6 factions, as I mentioned, in Stardom, and they are the Cosmic Angels, Neo Genesis, Hate, the Empress Nexus Venus, which is formerly known as Club Venus, so Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa's group, God's Eye, and your company Good Hands Stars. So those are like the company girls and stars. I love the fact that Hate has morphed from the previously faction known as Tai. So Hate stands for harass, abuse, terrorize, and eradicate. So
They did that this promo. It was, or I should say, this pay-per-view. So that
it is
good on
crazy.
them. Good on them. I will say that I feel, and again, this is coming from a complete new eyeballs on Stardom, but I feel that kind of mirrors sumo and the Sumo Association in Japan. To be a sumo wrestler, there are no independent sumo wrestlers. They all come from stables. So, and when they have it's always the stables that going up against each other. As I was watching Stardom, I got kind of that feel when it came to the different factions, the different stables going against each other. It was a lot of fun, and it ended up being really easy. It's not like when you watch one of the bigger, more popular, where like the factions are like all willy nilly and like who's in the faction today and this, that, and the other. It was really straight down line, and I felt it like it enhanced the show.
It definitely did, and of course, I agree with you that for those who are new to Stardom, I feel like this was a perfect way to kind of ease yourself in. You don't need to be following like who's where, what's the story going on. You can just tell that's for certain factions like each other, certain factions don't, and it's pretty easy with that. But
this was a 4-hour show. Yeah.
But yeah. I loved every single bit of it. So let's talk about what opened up the show, which was an international inter-promotion tag team match, because we kicked off the show with a tag team match where we had Athena, the current Ring of Honor Women's World Champion, teaming up with Stardom's Ula, who is part of Hate, taking on pretty much the leader of Empress Venus in Mina Shirakawa, and she's teaming up with a returning to the ring after a year and a half after having a baby, Ty Mello.
Yeah.
That was the immediate, like, all right, this match gets 5 stars, and we haven't even seen it because Ty is back. She had a whole baby a year and a half ago, and this is her first match since then. I've missed Ty so much. I'm so happy.
Yeah, and she performed really well. There are wrestlers who have been out with, I don't want to say less injuries, but didn't have a kid, and they were out for like 2 months, that come back and look a lot more ring rusted than Ty did. She, in fact, did not look like she had any ring rust on her. She wrestled really well, really competitively, teamed very well with Mina Shirakawa. Definitely was the muscle to Mina's energy and, fast paced. But go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
Pretty much. Okay, let me start with this. I'm familiar with 3 out of the 4 of these women that in this match. So I've seen Ty wrestle, so I know what she's capable of. Mina, fantastic. Athena, fantastic. This is my first real introduction to Thekla.
Yeah.
I love her look. I love her style of wrestling. It's so much fun.
Sure.
But what I loved about this is what this match brought to me is how Western wrestlers bring like the ideals of wrestling to Stardom. Because Stardom is so faction heavy, honestly, Ty looked like she belonged to Empress Venus, like Nexus Venus. Like, honestly, Ty fit in there. Yeah. I also love that Athena and Thekla were also fighting amongst themselves this match too.
Well, I thought it was fantastic how Athena, when they first came out, Athena like put the minion shirt. Thekla was just kind of like, okay, whatever, and like, throughout the whole match, Athena kept treating Thekla like a minion, you know? And then they had that disillusion at the end where I don't know if you caught it, but as they were walking off, Thecla was like, "Oh, it was great, bitch," you know? Like
Yeah,
it
she's
was,
like, Athena, everyone. What a beach.
yeah,
Which
it
comes
was,
into play during Wrestle Dynasty, which we'll talk about on
yes,
Thursday. Because now we
yes,
got a whole storyline, everything, which makes me super excited.
yep,
We
yeah,
kind
but
of
yeah,
bury
no,
the lead a little bit, but Athena and Thecla do pick up the victory over Mina and Ty. But
yep.
this was a fantastic opener. I love this match.
Yeah, Athena hit that crazy eclipse on Ty. I kind of felt bad that that Ty had to take the pin, but at the same time, like that was a beautiful move Athena hit, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Here, what I'm hoping is if Ty continues to wrestle in Japan for a little bit, and then whenever she's ready to come back to the States, I need of Tay, so her and Anna Jay need to be back. Send
yeah,
both of them to Japan. Let them fight the women in Stardom because I think
yeah,
Tay and Anna
yeah,
would be fantastic in Stardom.
yeah. I also really appreciate that this was the match that they started with, and you know, for lack of a better term, like the international talent that they brought on, like for the special match, they got that out of the way. So now for the rest of the show, we could focus on Stardom and the Stardom Stars.
Oh, absolutely. Which is exactly what they did in the next match because next we have a 5-way elimination match to determine the number one contender for the high speed championship in Stardom is mostly a championship for your high flyers and your speed type wrestlers. And the high speed championship matches are only 15 minutes. So those matches don't go longer than that. And boy, did these 5 women go at it because this was a really quick match. But this was like I said, a 5-way elimination match that had Saki Kashima, Yuna Mizumori, and Maki competing it out for the number one contendership. This was fast paced. They went in and out.
You know, wrestling match to start, and then we had this high energy and then we, you know, continued on with drama, you know, down the line. But yeah, there was really high speed. I definitely want to give a shout out, not to bury the lead, Saki Kashima. She did get the 1-2-3 pin on Yuna Mizumori.
Yep.
Yep. And, you know, good on her. Very smart. She laid low, kept her head down, waited for her moment to pounce, and got that. Good on her.
I love when wrestlers are able to be shown as them actually being very smart, which again, we don't get that a lot in, you know, Western wrestling per se, especially here in the States. But this was high speed. Saki is now number one contender to the high speed championship. So she will get that match at a later date. This was so much fun.
Yes.
Which then leads us into our first true faction. Well, it is faction because part of the Stardom events is that they have a subdivision known as Sendai Girls Wrestling. So we saw a lot of Stardom girls and we saw a lot of Sendai wrestling girls in here as well. But we get our first Stardom versus Sendai Girls kind of match in a little bit because we then have a tag team match which sees, you know, Miss Rina and Ruaka representing Hate taking on Manami and Hanan in this match. I'm just gonna continue to bring this up, but I love the aesthetic that Hate's got going on with all their members dressed in very dark attire. I love this so much. This is what I was seeing, and I was like, this is going to be a good night.
Yeah, this was a very fun match. You know, Manami and Hanan were so entertaining with a lot of the moves they did. And I too love the fact that the wrestlers, their faction kind of inspires their outfit, their ring gear. So yeah, it was really, you know, Hate Waka did get the 1-2-3 on, but yeah, also lots of energy. I really like throughout trying to like learn all the wrestlers and I just watched the match, and you know, this was just a really fun, entertaining match. So
yes, and of course the big staple of Joshi style wrestling is lots of screaming, which I love, which we'll get into, especially for a particular I loved it so much.
Really
quick, Robert
was good.
Representing Lafayette, Indiana in the house. What's up, Robert? I am so happy you can tune in because the majority of folks are watching, you know, the Netflix premiere of a certain other company. So happy that you stopped by to watch this review. Stardom, which is really, really fun.
Really,
So,
really quick about the screaming. It was, to me, it felt more like vocalization, right?
yeah.
Like, and it was part of just the whole performance, the whole selling, the whole drama of it, And instead of like delivering lines, they would scream, but it not just like screaming like to scream, but like good to accentuate what was going on. So it was, yeah, I enjoyed that the whole night.
I really did. And you know what? That's a really good way of putting it. That it was vocalization, and that wasn't the only thing that was hard hitting as well. Because outside of the vocalization, we'll get into other matches. I was like, we're in for a treat. But
Yep.
again, Hate does come out on top here as they defeated Minami and Hanan, which then leads us into our first championship match of the evening. So the only championship match we have, but that is okay. And this is for the Sendai Girls Junior Championship, which had the challenger Aya Sakura taking on the champion in Chi-Chi. I love the fact that when I was watching this has been muted for copyright purposes. Yep. And when I saw the aesthetic, I was like, there are two things. But it's Barbie related, and that is where I'm going to go with it.
Yep. And I think I did hear Barbie, I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, like starting to play right before they muted it. So I think that's like her intro song, which well played. Yeah, don't let the cuteness and the physical attractiveness of these women lead you astray, because this was a brawl. Holy cow. Like the start off where each of them took a turn, like getting on top of the other one and pinning their arms and just slapping. There were some hard hits, some crazy kicks. So apparently Aya Sakura for her kick attacks, and those were definitely on display. Chi-Chi was no slouch with her kicks, though. They actually did this cool thing where they both tried to kick each other and like missed. It was like a coordinated thing, and then I believe it was then came around the other way and like tagged Chi-Chi in the face. Chi-Chi took a shot. Her mouth started bleeding. So, we do have Chi-Chi winning with a really pretty German suplex 1-2-3 pin on Aya. Yeah, it was a brawl, and it was fantastic, and I loved it.
So I mentioned earlier that Joshi style wrestling is also full of, hard hitting. And this is where we truly started to see it in action. I was like, this is a championship. These girls went at it.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the staples that I love with Stardom and Joshi wrestling afterwards is that they do a little bit of a promoing after the match, because again, Chi-Chi retains her championships, but we get a little bit of some back and forth. We have Aya thanking her for the match, all that kind of stuff. Chi-Chi saying that she was a great opponent.
Totally. I can't read or speak a lick of Japanese, and just by their body posture and the presentation, I knew exactly what they were doing. It was a very, very fun afterwards, after promo that they did. A lot of respect on it. So it was cool.
I love this. It was so fantastic. Chi-Chi again does retain. She is a Barbie girl living in the Barbie world, and I am going to be I hope we get more Sendai girl matches on Stardom events, because this was a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just like our next match. Okay, first and foremost, I haven't gotten a chance to, but can we talk? I wanted to shout out Stardom in the graphics department in terms of these cards, as well as what they use for the Titantron for their talent, because it is so much. And, when we get to our semi-main event, we're going to talk about, because magical girls were in effect.
They were.
The props are out, and I was like, this is cosplay. But in this tag team match, we have our really first official Stardom on Stardom faction fight, as we have God's Eye, which is being represented by Entomaka Inaba, teaming up with Kyoka Kotatsu, taking on Hate, being represented by Momo Watanabe, who we would see later on in the weekend on Wrestle Dynasty. We have Asusa Inaba, and of course my personal favorite character in Stardom, I don't care what nobody says, is Miss Fukigen Death. Again, Death.
Because she was in another match later on. But yeah, again, a lot of fun. Made Fukigen Desu tap with an armbar, and it was beautifully executed, might I add. dare I say, very mystical-esque. Yeah, this was another great match, and definitely this is where, for me, the whole faction thing really, I was able to really start like recognizing, each faction and what they were doing, and it felt like an anime that I was watching in live action. It was great.
Oh my goodness, I loved it so much. And the Mystica would not be. This is not the only event where we would see that.
Yes.
For a special work, I'm going to do some research. I want to make a video of, lucha libre and Japanese strong style wrestling, because I'm noticing there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I love. But as, Adolfo said before, God's Eye takes the victory, taking down Hate in this tag team match, which then leads us to another Stardom versus Stardom faction tag team match, in which we have a lot of our top girls, which is being represented by Miyu Amasaki, and the challenger to Iwatani that would be happening at Wrestle Kingdom the following night in Miss Azumi. Again, I love the aesthetics of all these girls. This is where they threw down. These girls threw down, especially Azumi and Mayu, because they're like, hey, I know we have a match tomorrow, but we're going to try to beat the tar out of each other.
Yeah. Again, don't let the cute chibi thing throw you for a loop, because when they got, oh man, some of the hits, and then like afterwards where Iwatani and Azumi were like got in each other's face and just like slapping each other, and I'm like, ladies, clutch my pearls. Yeah. And also, this was really fast paced. Again, it was a very fun follow-up to the previous match, which was more like a slower power match. These six, high energy, a lot of moving, not a lot of high flying like in lucha, but still like they were all over the place. As a matter of fact, the only thing I could get down on my notes was that Iwatani got the pin, because I was just like, the match happened and I'm like,
it's like watching.
Wow.
It's like a it's like a sped up version of Pong. Like everybody's just hopping in and out. Also, can we talk about this really too? And this is something I appreciate about just Joshi wrestling, especially in Stardom. Like, these girls have actually worked together. So when all three of them are jumping in to do like tag team maneuvers, I'm like,
yeah,
it's tag team. Like,
yeah, it was crazy.
Everybody knows their spots. They set things up. Like, two of the girls are holding someone down, and then the other one hits a move. It's just like, there is such a fluidity to the ins and outs. Like, again, because I'm familiar with Stardom, I'm used to not seeing, the standard tag in, tag out when it comes to these matches too. I mean, we still saw that, but the girls would jump in, and the ref was like, no, you can't do that. It's like, all right, fight.
Yeah, the coordination, the coordination that these wrestlers had was just fantastic. Fantastic.
Oh, this was such a highlight for me, which then leads us into our next match. So I was very surprised when we got this, because anybody who knows women's, Japanese women's wrestling, as soon as I saw a certain name on there, I'm like, no freaking way. But we have our next match, which is another tag team match. We have our Cosmic Angels faction being represented by Cosmic Angels being represented by Sayori Natsupoi and Sayaka Kurara, taking on the Vulgar Alliance, which is the team of Zap and the legend herself, Dump Matsumoto, teaming up with Heitsuka Hotora. I figured this wasn't going to be a fast-paced match, given the fact that Dump is very elderly, but it was so much fun to watch her, just be the heel that she grew to be when she was wrestling in Japan. So if you haven't, y'all go check out the Netflix show. Like, that was a really fun watch.
Yo, that heel grandmama, that's the vibe I got from her. Because she just like was waddling around, smacking people with that kendo stick. Out of nowhere, the ref comes up and he's all bloody and bandaged. I'm like, when did that happen? A trash can got thrown in, started beating people in the head with the trash can. Man, yeah, Dump Matsumoto. Brava.
One of my favorite spots in this match is when she was, trying to hit one of the Cosmic Angels with it, and then it's like, miss, and then kicked out of her hand. I'm like, yeah,
that was really cool. And good on the Cosmic Angels for, taking those hits and selling those hits. And, all six, again, the coordination and the performance in this match it was fantastic. So entertaining to watch. I was fearing for people's health and safety, which should speak to how well these 6 performed. Yeah, we did get a 1-2-3 pin because of some miscommunications between Zap, Dump Matsumoto, and Tora. It was a hard fought win, and I was cheering out loud when the Cosmic Angel got that win because they were getting lumped up.
Absolutely. And it seems we're not done with them, because afterwards, even though Cosmic Angels do stand tall, Dump gets on the mic, and it seems that the Cosmic Angels are willing to go another round with these 3. So we might be getting that at a future show, which I'm super excited for. This was just pure fun, and I love this so much. As Adolfo said, Cosmic Angels do walk out of this with the victory, but this is only just the first battle, and what may seem to be more to come between these 6.
Yep.
I'm just going to let this image sit here, because when I tell you, I want to shout out Team, 200 kilograms, kg, for representing all the thick people out here. I just love them so much. But this was my second favorite match of the whole entire night. But this sees the tag team of Hi, which is Micah and Hanako, taking on Team 20 kilograms, which is represented by Chihiro Hashimoto and you. That's just it. It's just you.
Yup. But this was the match that it clicked for me that there was a lot of body style representation in Stardom, which I didn't think I was going to get, because to me, Joshi is presented as, the small, chibi, lots of energy. But, this match, these wrestlers, they were big. They were throwing power moves, and it was, Team 200 kg, just, wow. They were hitting crazy, like, power slams and whatnot. Mayaka, I think, when she had this back and forth with Hashimoto that just was so smooth. Like, Mayaka came with a clothesline, and Hashimoto did like the slide underneath, and like, I just looked so good. You with that steamroller, I love that move.
It's not even an exaggeration. I was hyped as hell for this match.
Yeah. So and Miyaka with that sunset flip at the end.
My gosh, that was so good.
Yeah, it was. And they're big, but they had such agility. It was great.
I loved it so much, and I loved everything afterwards too, because I'm like, bring me back Team 200 kg.
Yes.
I loved him so much.
Yes.
I'm like, yes, give me RVD, Rob Van Dam aesthetics with your ring gear.
Right? Yup. And the yelling it was so good.
I was loving it. I was like, at this point in the show, I was like, this is my favorite match of the whole entire night. I was just like, we got 2 matches left, so we'll see what happens. This was my match of the night. Holy shit, these girls brought it. Excuse me, I'm dropping my curse word. We're far enough into this.
That's it.
Oh my God. And this match had stakes to it that we found out about 2 days before the show aired, because they did little, and we got added stakes to this match. So this is a match. This is 1-on-1. This is Tom taking on Miss Sayaka Unagi, or Unagi Sayaka, if you will, which me and Adolfo are familiar with, because she was part of the international team of the Amazonas Grand Prix not too long ago.
Yep. And apparently got a belt somewhere along the way.
That's what I said. I was like, I gotta go back and look up what championship she has.
Right.
But good on her. So when I tell you, though, I'm like, we got some stakes for this match, because at the press conference, we learned that this match now has become a name versus career match. So what that means is, if Tom Nakano loses the match, she can no longer wrestle under the name Tom Nakano, which in Japanese, especially in Joshi wrestling, your name, just like in Lucha Libre, like a mask, is everything to the individual wrestler. So again, love the similarities between Lucha Libre and Japanese wrestling, especially Joshi. Names mean everything to the girls in Joshi wrestling. If Sayaka loses, she can no longer wrestle in Stardom. So her career in Stardom is basically over should she lose. with these stakes in hand, these girls fought with everything they got, and they were knocking each other out, which I love because, again, I'm used to matches having stakes, and then nobody in the actual match is selling that, like, oh, this is do or die time. These girls were giving everything they had because they both knew it was do or die. And so they were fighting like everything was on the line.
Yeah, they did. Oh my God.
This is
Some
also
of those
where the
shots.
hardest, yes, this is where all the hardest hits came into play in this match. I'm like,
Yo,
oh God, I'm beat up after
some of the-
watching it.
Yeah, I'm like, some of those shots, I was like, are they giving each other receipts? What the hell is going on right now? You know, oh man, they did like the whole thing where they just like, again, they stood face to face and just started slapping the shit out of each other. And then later on, they both kneeled in front of each other and started kicking the crap out of each other, quite literally kicking each other. I was like, wow, you know, the emotion that they sold with this too, which overall through the night, you know, the dramatic presentation for all the wrestlers and all the matches and all the different things that they were shooting, you know, again, it felt like I was watching an anime, like a good, entertaining 4-hour long anime. And yeah, I felt feelings at the end of this. I was like, is she really? So, you know, not to spoil it, but did get the pin on Unagi. And then like you could almost, the entire room, I think, was just kind of like, oh man, did that really happen? We're not going to be seeing Unagi anymore? That's it? Wow. You know, it was heavy. You know, hopefully that means we'll get more of Unagi in CMLL.
Well, especially if Homegirl has the championship. I'm like, hold the phone.
Damn right, because I loved her in the Amazonas Grand Prix. So
I loved her on the show before that too, like the week before when she teamed up with from Japan, and I was like, hold the phone.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this was, you know, again, this was an emotional match. You know what I mean? There were a few series where it was like boom, 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 boom. But overall, it was a more like dramatic performance featuring violence. You know, it was great.
I loved it. It was so fantastic. Like, again, it was so emotional. I loved it. Now, this made me emotional when I watched it, but when we talk about Wrestle Dynasty and watching Mina Shirakawa's post-press conference after that, I cried a little bit on the inside. I was like, not my girl. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Stardom and just Joshi wrestling in general, especially in Japan, is that these girls are also acting, which I really love, which we don't get to see a lot because, again, the entertainment factor not only comes from in-ring, but characters matter. And just watching these girls like moat so much, I'm like,
yeah. It really added to everything in the night. So
it really did. And this was my match of the night. Like, hands down, I'm just like, this is the second longest match of the show too, clocking in at about 17 minutes. The longest match on the card did go to the previous tag team match with, you know, Hi Mate and Team 200 kg. So I love that they were back to back because they ended up being my two favorites. But we end the night with our main, well, I don't even want to call it a main event. Stardom doesn't, but this was the final match on the card, which is another Stardom on Stardom faction match in which we see, you know, Neo Genesis being represented by Suzuki. And one of my personal favorites, Starlight Kid in all her glory. Loved her so much.
Yeah.
Taking on, you know, Hate, which is this time being represented by Kamitami. And pulling double duty tonight, Ms. Momo Wata with her bat.
Momo Workhorse Wat. Yep.
Girl was booked this week.
Yep. So, you know, to start off, wow. Not only did I love her ring gear, all the flowy ribbons that she had going on, but she was a dynamo. She did this killer torpedo drop kick from the top turnbuckle, and it was gorgeous. And you know, Starlight Kid and Suzuki were getting worked over until Suzuki got a hold of that infamous bat that would come to play later on in the weekend.
Just like, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, you know, after that, Suzuki hit a beautiful German suplex on me and to get the 1-2-3 pin. And it was fantastic. It was a great final match for a great show. You know? That's it. That's all I got. I'm ready for more.
Oh, absolutely. I will say before we end this too, Like I read up, it was like, oh yeah, I know that Stardoms have intermissions, but I didn't know they would show the intermissions. So like we get
Yeah.
halfway through the show and then we just watch the ads play in the background and people getting up and walking around. I'm just
Yeah.
like,
And they had
oh,
that ticket thing too. I was like,
intermission means intermission. Okay.
yeah, okay, I
I
dig
need
it.
more
I dig
wrestling
it.
shows to do that. Like, let's adopt that here in
Right?
the West. Let's get through the pay-per-view, have an intermission of like 10, 15 minutes. Everybody go to the bathroom, get some
Yup.
food, and then y'all
Yup.
make your way back.
Yep.
Like, fantastic. And that brings us to the end, Adolfo. This was we watched and reviewed our first Stardom show.
I know. Like I said, I'm ready for more. I apologize if I seem just kind of like a broken record and dumbfounded for this, but I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed watching every match. There was not one match where I was kind of like, okay, this is the match where I'm going to get up and go to the bathroom. Very well done, very well performed, great characterizations, great vocalizations. I want to see more Stardom. So please, someone tell us tell me where I can watch more Stardom.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, Adolfo, we are going to be continuing to watch Stardom throughout 2025. So I'm hoping to get more of our folks to watch and do this because Stardom's shows, the big four, are so spaced out throughout the year. I feel like it's easy to do. And I'm super happy that we got to experience this. This is the first big Stardom show for 2025. And this was the first show that kicked off a very busy week in Japan in terms of wrestling events. So, I mean, I gave this show a B on the, social medias because I have to, but I don't want to do that here because this was just a really fun show. And as somebody who has been following, Stardom in terms of news, but never really getting a chance to watch like a full show, from front to back, this was just a fun experience. And I definitely want to continue. Yeah. So, Adolfo, I'm glad that you had a good time with Stardom.
Totally.
And truly seeing, I was like, every time we watch, the other promotions here in the United States, I was like, I'm telling you, man, y'all need to get on this because these Japanese wrestling girls, they will fight you and they will hit hard. And lo and behold, New Year Dream was full of that.
Yeah. I also got to give props to the announcement team. They called everything pretty much like straight down the line. They gave dramatas to certain moments that required dramatas. They gave background to certain matches, to stuff that happened back in 2024 and previously, so that so I actually felt like I knew kind of like what was going on, so good on them. Thank you for that English announce team. I'm sorry that y'all had to be up, I guess, in the bleachers or something like that, but yeah, I'm going to keep my eye out when the Stardom US show happens to see if it's somewhat close to my neck of the woods, because I might go and watch some Stardom in the US.
Well, as we talk about Stardom and other stuff related to Japanese wrestling, now will be a good time. Like I mentioned, this was just the first of 3 shows that happened in Japan this past weekend.
Yeah.
And we here at BC WrestlePod are planning to cover all of it. So pit stop number 1 is complete. We have done our due diligence. Stardom New Year Dream is now officially done and reviewed. So what can you expect for the rest of the week? Well, let me just show you. And of course, it's going to be just like a half. There we go. So this week, as part of our 2025 kickoff week here at BC WrestlePod, now that we had 2 weeks off due to the holidays, we are here reviewing Stardom tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Me and Adolfo will be back to now do the men's side. So we will be covering New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 19. And I'm excited because Adolfo is familiar with some of these folks, but now he got to witness all the people that I love from New Japan, and that there are more talent than what we see with the Forbidden Door pay-per-view here for the last 3 years that we've gotten it. Then
I stayed up till 2 a.m. and I was not disappointed.
No, Adolfo is a trooper. Adolfo got a taste, and we could actually talk about that after this, but on Wednesday, we go back to our regular scheduled programming. We are doing CMLL, so I have enjoyed the break watching Lucha Libre without having to review it. But we got a lot to talk about because a lot of things went down this past. It's so good. And then Thursday, myself and Will, our lovely co-host from CMLL and the NXT and TNA teams, we will be reviewing Wrestle Dynasty. which is the big AEW, CMLL, New Japan, ROH, and Stardom crossover show that we had.
Yeah.
My God, it was so much fun. I cannot wait to talk about that. Adolfo, I'm really sad because I really wanted you to be here and talk about that Gabe Kidd Omega match because, like, geez, Jiminy H. Christmas, like, holy.
That was good, but like, yeah, my heart went with the
Yes.
Rumble. As soon as Soberano Jr. came out, I was like,
about damn time. For real.
oh Lord.
Get this man on the international stages.
Right.
But that is going to be on Thursday. On Saturday, me and Adolfo will be reuniting because we have a MLW show happening this weekend, and we will be doing a live watch along for the King of Coliseum. I'm
Which
so
you
excited.
Can watch along with us too, because MLW stuff is free on their YouTube site.
The show will be free on YouTube starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We will be here. We have 5 matches currently scheduled. It is going to be so much fun. And then we wrap up the week on Sunday with our WWE review, where we will be reviewing the premiere Monday Night Raw episode now that we're in the Netflix era, and the second 3-hour SmackDown of 2025. So lots of things have happened. It is going to be fantastic. Adolfo, thank you so much for being here this evening. So before we wrap up, like, this has been a really fun journey. I cannot wait for this. So yeah, before we wrap up, Adolfo, I wanted to just, give you your flowers and also talk a little bit behind the scenes stuff, because Adolfo, and, I was joking about it the whole entire weekend, but I appreciated him being a trooper and watching the shows live, as they were happening on Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday as well. So, Adolfo, you got to experience what I normally do on a regular basis. So, and this is not to shame you or to make fun of you, because honestly, I appreciate you doing it, and I appreciate the conversation we had afterwards, through our text message exchange. But Adolfo, how did it feel to go back to back with these?
To steal your phrase, it was nuts. It was tiring, but it was very entertaining. I definitely, if they do something like this again in the future, where they do like a New Year's like Stardom, Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty thing, my 50th birthday is coming up in 2 years. That might be my 50th birthday gift to myself.
We hop on a plane to Japan to do all the shows.
Planned for the 3 shows. Yeah.
I'll go with you.
Yeah. I could just imagine though. And it just, like, the excitement carried over from each show to each show. So it was great. Yeah. It was a great weekend. Tiring weekend, very tiring. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great wrestling.
Definitely was.
Yeah, it's the one thing I can tell you is when Stardom does the thing where they translate everything and and put it on whatever, like on YouTube or whatever they do, you definitely take some time and watch the New Year Dream, the 2025 New Year Dream. It's well worth it. Well worth it. Great wrestling, great storylines. Check it out.
Absolutely. And of course, I make fun of Adolfo. I was like, this is what I have to do every week. I'm just kidding. No. And my whole thing is that when I sent out to see who would be interested, it was more so wanting to expose people to something that they've never had before. And I've always wanted to do Stardom. And it just so happened that, I found people who would do it. So I'm excited to do the next Stardom show. But I'm so excited. So whenever that is, I'm going to keep my eye on everything and we'll go from there. But that is going to be it for this episode of Grapple Gurus. We will be back tomorrow evening to move to the men's side of things that happened this past weekend, because we will be going from Stardom's New Year Dream to New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 19, where there is a lot of fun stuff, but also I have questions. So this is going to be fun. But that is going to be it for us here at Grapple Gurus. For myself and Adolfo and the rest of the BC Wrestle Pod team, I'm so happy to finally get back into saying this. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay biconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will see you, me and Adolfo, tomorrow for Wrestle King.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, Take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.